And welcome back to Retro Wrestling Games Presents, a very special episode featuring Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. This game was a pick by my 9-year-old son Santino. He wanted us to do a video on this game, and he does provide the gameplay footage along with myself. So we play this game together, and we actually beat the entire game. So it was a lot of fun, but we'll go into more of that as we progress. Now, Michael Jackson's Moonwalker was developed by Sega and published by Sega. It was an arcade game, and it was also a Sega Genesis game. It was released in September of 1990. The one that we're watching right now is the arcade version of the game. The game is kind of similar to Gauntlet and Operation Wolf, kind of has that kind of perspective, and the control is kind of a 360 type control, so you can move your guy in basically any direction. Now, I played this with a Wii controller because I used a imported, modded Wii to play this game. And I wish I had a arcade stick to play this, because that probably would have been more intuitive instead of having the clunky Wii controllers. If you ever played those sideways, they're pretty terrible, especially for playing arcade games. So I don't recommend doing that. But if you do have a PS4 controller with the analog sticks, or you have a arcade type control, I probably would go with those versus the D-pad on a controller. So Michael Jackson's Moonwalker is a game based off of Michael Jackson's movie by the same name, Moonwalker.
Yeah.
So in the year 1988, Michael Jackson and his team thought it would be a good idea to license this property to Sega. So they came out with a movie, which we'll get into a little bit, and they made the movie into a game, which is real interesting. For more in-depth review, I'm going to kick it over to my son, Santino.
Hello, my name is Santino, and I'm playing with my dad, Michael Jackson's Moonwalk, aka the Moonwalker. And this is my first time speaking on here. I've played the game before, and honorably, it is the weirdest game ever. And also that there's only like one power-up, and it is this monkey in Mario's overalls named Bubbles, and it transforms you into a robot. I am the red guy. I'm the white guy for a couple of seconds, then I become the red guy who is playing with the GameCube controller.
Tell me, Tino, do you know anything about Michael Jackson?
The only thing I know about him is that he's a famous singer.
What was your favorite part of the game?
I guess transforming into Mecha Jackson.
And what was your least favorite part of the game?
Sometimes when you get kids, you don't get anything, just a thank you. It says you get 3 stuff. One that is completely useless, that says thank you, MJ, aka Michael Jackson. You get this health that does your little health. I do like the dancing in it. It's kind of cool.
Tino, would you recommend this game for kids your age?
I recommend it to anyone.
Thank you, Tino. I appreciate it.
Bye now. Back to Daddy.
And there you have it, a 9-year-old's perspective on Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. All right, fantastic and great job. So, Matt, have you ever played Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, or saw it in the arcade, or played it?
I saw it in the arcade once, but I never played it. It was one of those games where it was like, I probably should have,
It's definitely an oddity. It's an intriguing premise, and to be honest, how many other singers or bands have video games made of them? The only other one I can think of was the strange Aerosmith game they had called Revolution X, which was very, very out there. That was a shooter where I think you shot CDs. But
yeah.
So basically, this game is a beat 'em up. So you go through, I think it's 6 different stages or rounds, as they call it. You beat up all the baddies on the screen using your magic powers. You shot, magic glitter or dust from your fingertips. Basically have it in a gun position, and you basically shoot everyone on screen. Now, you do have a special attack where Michael Jackson goes into a dance routine, which makes everyone else on the screen go into a dance routine, and then they all die. Because they can't keep up with Mike. You know how that goes.
Right.
So the object of this game is to go around and rescue as many kidnapped children as possible until you get to the boss, Mr. Big, at the end. You defeat him, and everyone lives happily ever after. Now, another interesting power-up that Michael has in the game is the ability... Another interesting power-up he has in the game is when you encounter Bubbles, his pet chimpanzee, you turn into a robot with lasers and missiles and all kinds of goodies. Turned into Mecha Jackson, perhaps, as some people have called him on the internet. So he has laser bursts and missiles, and you're pretty much almost indestructible while in this form, which is real interesting. You know, my son asked me, he's like, was Michael Jackson able to turn into a robot in real life? I said, absolutely yes. Yes, he can.
Yeah.
And my rationale for that is like, if there's anyone in the world that can turn into a robot, it'd be Michael Jackson.
Yeah, I know, indeed. I mean, that's what happened in real life. You think he died, you just turn into a robot and like, oh.
He flew away, he went back into space, because he's an alien, so, according to the National Enquirer, so. And an episode of Black Dynamite, which is the greatest cartoon on TV. If you haven't seen Black Dynamite, that cartoon, based on the great Black Dynamite movie that they had, definitely check that out. Speaking of movies, so this movie was based on Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, which is an interesting movie all on its own. So I know you haven't watched the whole thing, Matt, but what'd you see when you watched bits and pieces of Moonwalker?
I think there was a producer somewhere who was talking to Michael, and Michael was like, I think I want to do a movie. And they were like, well, what do you want? Well, I want to sing and dance. And he's like, well, let's make it easy. Let's just do your song. So that opening like the 10-minute song of him doing Man in the Mirror. And I get like the concert footage and everything else. I think people don't realize in the States how popular he was.
Biggest star in the 80s.
Yeah, like globally, just, he was the new Elvis, king of pop. But I think that when they greenlit this, they didn't have a concrete plan. We talked about earlier, like WWE writing, not planning ahead more than 3 or 4 weeks, and it really shows. And I think that, with this movie, it looks like they just took a bunch of vignettes and then just threw them together, and they had money behind it because he was loaded. So someone somewhere took advantage of him.
Definitely. You go into the retrospective, which is cool. I thought that was actually probably the best part of the entire movie, when they went over basically all of his hits. So you saw I Want You Back and ABC, Jackson 5, what have you. Can You Feel It, which is one of my favorite songs. Beat It, Thriller, Billie Jean, and Dirty Diana are some of the notable songs from that portion of the film. And then you go into this weird remix of Bad, the video Bad.
Yeah. Where
Michael's there and he turns into a little kid. And everyone around him turns into little kids, which is, knowing what we know about Michael now and, the alleged allegations, it's kind of like, you look at it like, ew. And, they go into that video and then, they transition and they go into Speed Demon, which is a pretty cool song, one of the better songs on that album. And then that one's all claymation. So it looks like they use Will Vent Studios for that. The same people who did California Raisins. I think they did some of the Bricks commercials later on or what have you.
Yeah.
So again, that's another strange kind of thing where you have a bunch of people who are chasing down Michael for his autograph and he's trying to escape. Probably, it's real life for probably Mike. Being as popular and as famous as he was. People chasing for his autograph. During there's a chase scene. So during the chase scene, he morphs into other celebrities. So like there's Sylvester Stallone, Tina Turner, and Pee Wee Herman, which is again just a little bit off-putting. Then at the end, he has a dance-off with the bunny that he turns into, and then he gets a ticket from the cop who wants his autograph. Yay!
Right.
After that, it goes into the segment with "Leave Me Alone," which is another video, which is a real interesting video because it goes into all the stuff that the tabloids were super huge at the time. So you had your Inside Editions, you had your National Enquirer, National Examiner, really kind of going after Michael, saying the most outrageous things about him. Like he bought the Elephant Man's bones, or he has a shrine to Liz Taylor, and some of the strange things that he lived, that he slept in the what's it called, oxygen chamber, or what have you. Some of the more outlandish stuff. Which, if you look at it today, we're in the TMZ era right now. TMZ's a little more responsible than the National Enquirer was back in the day.
Right.
Because they would just literally say anything. And Mike was eccentric, to say the least. So did he have a pet chimp named Bubbles? And did he live on Neverland Ranch? And, was it like, was his house like an amusement park? Yes. But, if I was, a millionaire like him, I'd probably have a pet chimp too. And I'd probably have a statue of Batman in my front lawn, and I would be driving a DeLorean. So I can't really fault him for that kind of stuff.
No, I think too is that what happens is it's a product of the '80s. I mean, and growing up the way he did, he had all this thing given to him, and he had all this money, but he had some bad people around him, and I think he just, he said like for the what do you call it, the Leave Me Alone, he was taking shots back at them.
Yeah. And
their whole when he was dating, was it Priscilla Presley or?
It was
the daughter. What's her
name?
Jamie. I forget her name now. Lisa Marie.
Lisa Marie Presley, yes.
And everyone was like, yeah. But I think he was a misunderstood artist. Like, I was a big fan of Michael Jackson, but like after Thriller, Bad to me was kind of like, some catchy tunes, whatever.
It's hard to follow up Thriller. Like, what do you follow a masterpiece like that up with?
Oh yeah, there was so many good songs in that album.
Yeah.
And it's funny at work, even when the music comes on, like, it's Beat It, like, holy hell yeah. Although, some songs come on and you're like we were joking this morning, it was Rocky IV montage.
Nice.
There was the There's No Easy Way Out, and then there was, of course, Living in America.
Robert Tepper, by the way, sang that song. Some people don't know that, so.
Oh.
I throw that out there. I like Robert Tepper, so.
Shout out to Robert Tepper if you're out there listening. Thanks, man. And he is. But no, I think that this kind of extravagance to me smacks of like, remember a couple of years ago Justin Bieber had a roast?
Yeah.
Like, they paid for that. Like, they set that up.
Yeah.
Or when they have videos like this ill-fated like One Direction the movie. It's like someone's like, we can leverage this to more financial gain here.
Well, it was like, remember that Spice Girls movie they had? Like,
right, and someone's not there going, no, it's not a viable option to do that. And a part of me thinks, and this is my own theory of Michael Jackson, I have no proof to say this, if he's guilty, whatever, okay, not the first time a mad genius has some weird personal quirks and some sinister dark sides.
Yeah.
But if he was innocent, I always felt like he never had a childhood.
Yeah.
Like, he was a star as a kid. And I think he looked at it like, he knew what he lost out on and want other kids to have that.
Let's go back. Let's dissect this a little bit. Now, at this point, he's probably in his 30s, right? So I see a lot of people my age. I'm in my 30s. Right? Now that they have disposable income, now that they have some money and they have family of their own, that a lot of them are trying to buy back their childhood. So you see it with retro games now. So retro games like Nintendo was huge again. People were buying up Nintendos left and right. People are trying to recapture kind of their youth a little bit. In the 80s, it was people that were, kids in the 50s kind of trying to regain their childhood. So you see a lot of 50s nostalgia stuff in the 80s. Now, now we're in 2016, and you see a lot of 80s nostalgia stuff today. So for me, he gets a pass on that. Again, if I had the amount of money that he had, I'd be driving a DeLorean and not giving a shit. You know what I mean? Or I'd be like, I would have a arcade in my basement. I would have a movie theater in my basement. Probably, I have a wrestling room, and it's very nostalgic. There's a lot of 80s type. I'm looking at a WrestleMania 4 poster as we speak. So, like, did he take it to the next level? Like, motherfuckers had giraffes and shit, and he had a pet monkey, and he had giant snakes, and he had a tiger and all this other shit. Absolutely. But, it's not out of the ordinary. Now, again, for people my age or even a little bit older, people go through their midlife crises and that kind of stuff. It's funny to see him do it on that type of level because, at that point he has unlimited money.
Right. And that's the thing I always go back to is that, when you have that much money and power and not enough people looking out for you, you see it all the time with like Antoine Walker was a Celtics player.
Yeah.
And he had millions of, like $103 million like he earned over his career or something like that. And he was broke because he supported like 30 people, but he also like put money in a business deal and things like that. So when you had like, Michael Jackson, you had Neverland Ranch, and you were pouring money into it, and someone somewhere is saying, "Oh, here's a cash cow for me."
Yeah.
So, anyways, it was a part of my childhood. I grew up with it. So, I always use the example of my grandmother and O.J. Simpson. when it first happened, she was like, "That son of a bitch." And then as the trial went on, she was like, "That poor OJ." I used to say, like, there could be video of me hitting someone with a hammer, and she'd be like, "Well, he probably had reason," like I think some people have always looked the other way on certain things, and I also feel like in a lot of ways people get jealous of success, so they want to bash people no matter what way they can, and I think he falls somewhere in between, Macaulay Culkin, those guys know what really went on, so.
Like, was it a good idea to be like a 35-year-old man and having sleepovers with, 10, 11-year-olds? It's probably not a good idea. Someone probably should tell him, like, "Hey, Mike,
right.
This ain't cool." It'd be different if you had kids at that point. You know what I mean? And it would have been different. Like, "Oh, we're gonna show the kids a good time, blah blah blah," and do all the ton of good stuff. But it was like, this is before you had kids, and like, it's a little off-putting. It to this day is a little off-putting, and at the time, I think it really kind of hurt. He still maintained his popularity worldwide, but imagine if he didn't have those allegations, what his popularity would have been. Would have been 10 times. Because everyone snickers, everyone makes the jokes. I remember, schoolyard stuff as a kid. There's like, oh, blah blah blah, Michael Jackson. Everyone was taking shots at his expense. Even though you didn't really know what was happening. I think the plastic surgeries and that kind of stuff. Not revealing that he had, he has a disease that kind of, that skin pigment disease.
Oh yeah.
But not revealing that when he first got it. He's like, "Hey, listen, guys, I have this disease, so I'm gonna have to lighten up my skin." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not coming, all of a sudden showing up and you're white and your nose is small and your hair is different. I mean, that sends some red flags up there. But
I've always felt my inner theory with his appearance facially was, I think he felt like he was looking more like his father, and he hated his father.
Possible.
And he wanted to look less like him, so he had surgery to change that, and then of course that didn't go well.
Yeah, I mean, but how many celebrities nowadays, have plastic surgery? I mean, there's it's through the roof right now.
Look at what's her face, Meg Ryan.
Yeah, it's like, oh boy, you know what I mean. So he's not the only one to fall victim of that. He might have been one of the early ones, one of the first ones, and his appearance did drastically change. So, interesting across the board. The next segment is the famous video of Smooth Criminal. Now, this is an extended version of this music video, which is one of my favorites of all time of the videos he did. It begins, there's 3 homeless children that are sneaking through a city to see their friend Michael Jackson. If he was really his friend, I don't know if those kids would be homeless.
Right.
So that's interesting. He comes out of his front door, and then some mobsters come out and fucking shoot him with a machine gun.
Yeah.
And then they go into like a flashback of the kids kind of playing around. They're playing soccer, they're having a good time, and then the dog runs away, and Michael and his good friend Katie are looking for the dog, and they cover a hideout of Mr. Big. Mr. Big being a global drug dealer who wants to make sure that every kid is hooked on dope.
Dope.
Again, this is we're still in the war against drugs era in the United States, so that being significant, I guess. So, then we go back to present day where Michael's getting shot at in front of his apartment, which is, surprisingly violent for a Michael Jackson video. He escapes the gunfire. The dogs are, they're chasing Mike through the city. They got the dogs tracking him down. He gets cornered in the alley, and then he wishes upon a star and then turns it into a car.
Yes, of course he does.
Then he runs over a bunch of the henchmen, which is awesome.
Yes.
The way to be non-violent, Mike. And then Michael's pursued through the city. He loses the guys. The kids kind of end up at this club, whereas Michael had told them to meet him. It's haunted, apparently, too. I think we mentioned that.
Of course it is.
Yeah. So Michael goes in the club, and there's the famous scene where Mike has the coin, kind of flips it, and it goes right into the jukebox, and then we go right into the video of Smooth Criminal. So we have that music video. I don't have to explain what Smooth Criminal is, because I'm assuming everyone has seen the video. So at the end of the video, basically, they shoot up the club. The bad guy kidnaps Katie. Michael follows them. Mr. Big is going to inject Katie with some unknown drug. It's probably heroin. So they're about to kill Michael. Michael wishes upon another fallen star, and then turns into a giant robot and kills all of Mr. Big's henchmen.
Yes, I was just watching that clip.
After that, he turns into a spaceship, trying to say that with a straight face. Mr. Big gets into a big cannon. He's going to blow up Michael and his spaceship form. But Mike destroys the cannon, kills Mr. Big, and then Michael leaves. And then the end of this movie, I guess what we call it, the kids are all depressed that Michael has, gone back to his planet, perhaps, and that Michael's gone forever. Katie's crying and blah blah blah. And then she wishes upon a paper star. They walk into the club, and then all of a sudden the club is backstage at a Michael Jackson concert where he sings "Come Together," which is a cover of a Beatles song, which he owns all the rights. Well, he owned all the rights to the Beatles songs.
Yes.
So that's it. So that's Michael Jackson's Moonwalker, the movie. It's hard to put in words kind of what this is, but I think this was a big Michael Jackson cashing in on his popularity at the time.
I'm always curious. Do we know what the? Actually, maybe I can find out. Let's go to the tape because like I said before, he was a huge star internationally.
Yeah. Let's
see what the wiki says about it. Because I'm curious what the. It's just an anthology film. Sure, it is.
I don't think this was released in the movie theater, although it might have been, but I'm not seeing anything that's saying it was on VHS and Laserdisc, folks.
It was released theatrically in Europe and South America, but Warner Brothers canceled plans for an '88 release. It was home video in '89. Critical reception. Mixed reviews. I can't imagine why.
Well, I guess Warner Brothers saw what this was. Now, I'm assuming they were expecting like maybe a concert film.
Yeah.
Like they've done them recently. Basically him, going, and people would like to see that. I mean, I don't think anyone thought it was like his other movie. You ever seen The Wiz?
Yes.
Okay. It's basically Michael Jackson and I think Diana Ross, and it's a Blaxploitation remake of Wizard of Oz. Maybe.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's just all the characters are played by. I don't think there's any white people in it.
Yeah.
Which is fine. But
just an interesting take on Wizard of Oz. But according to the video, when 8 times platinum sold 800,000 copies in the United States. So was it a success? Yeah, I think 8 times platinum for a home video in 1989 is a success. People bought it. I have it. The first time I watched it was on VH1 back in the day. So they were doing like a Michael Jackson marathon where you saw like the extended version of Thriller and Beat It and what have you. Thriller being a hell of a video, by the way.
Yeah, that's still great.
Yeah. So the Michael Jackson Moonwalker for the arcade. Now it has Michael Jackson signature music throughout the game, like Smooth Criminal, Beat It, Another Part of Me, which is an underrated song, by the way. Billie Jean and Bad. Are all make appearances in the game. Funny to note, while playing this game, now I am playing this on an emulator. The music didn't sound great. It was a little staticky. I'm going to see if I'm going to leave it in. I might have to take it out because of copyrights. But see if I can sneak that in there. Now the Genesis and there's a Master System version, which is amazing to me. That they had Moonwalker on the Master System. That's probably a super rare game. But let's go back to how many celebrities and especially singers. Now you have your sports stars. You had your Michael Jordan versus Larry Bird 1-on-1, right? You had your Buster Douglas boxing. You had your Mike Tyson Punch Out. Those are all athletes. This is the first time like a singer had a project like this. Now you can tell that he's into video games because why? Prince didn't have a video game. I would like to play a Prince video game because that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But he was the only one, and it makes it real interesting. It goes to the global appeal because Sega, being a Japanese company, thought it was a good idea. And apparently he appears in Ready to Rumble Boxing Round 2, which I want to have to check that out now. To see if he makes an appearance on there. Unreal. Michael Jackson's Moonwalker for the arcade. Again, I think it's a classic. It definitely represents the time. It's very 80s across the board. And you're just listening to some of those songs. It just brings you back to, a different time.
It's definitely nostalgic.
Yeah, I was to say the least. Again, and going through my long list of games that I'm going to put videos up on, this is definitely. It wasn't towards the top, but since my son wanted to play it, and I was like, what the hell, we'll just record it. I always had plans to do this game anyway, so it did make it up a little bit earlier than I initially expected. But it's good to see some kind of obscure, I wouldn't use the word rare, but kind of different things in terms of a retro gamer's perspective.
Indeed.
There's a computer version too. Holy shit! I didn't know that.
No.
So there was actually a home computer version. This was released in 1990. It was published by US Gold, and it was for the Amiga, Commodore 64, the Atari ST, which I desperately want and get, and then DOS. And this one had it was 4 different levels. It was top-down maze style. It was based on the Speed Demon version or part of this movie. It was like the 3rd level has the smooth criminal clip. The player collects ammunition and shoots gangsters, and openings above the player character.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and then the final level is a shooter. It does have The Way You Make Me Feel in there as one of the songs in the soundtrack, so that's interesting. I definitely want to check out the home computer version, so that might be interesting. All right, so that's all the time we have here on Retro Wrestling Games Presents, a very special episode featuring Michael Jackson's Moonwalker. I'll see you next